Hello again, everybody. Hi, how you doing? Hope the week's going well for you. I decided to go ahead and throw chapter 4 up in your announcement page and also place the link in your email. This is a pretty brief chapter. I know it's one that you're going to be reading for this week, but as far as the PowerPoint that I have, it's fairly short. Chapter 4 is on policing, purpose, and organization. I also have some slides in here on at least one police experiment as well that I'll share with you. So the mission for the police, there are 5 basic elements of the police mission. It's to enforce law, apprehend offenders, prevent crime, or as we all know it as crime prevention, preserve peace, which is the quality of life offenses, and provide services. So let's go into the enforcing the law part here. Police enforce federal, state, and local criminal laws. Law enforcement is not the only responsibility of the police. Research shows only 10 to 20% of all calls to the police involve situations that actually require a law enforcement response. So we've got the federal law enforcement. Many of you are quite familiar with this. Federal agencies enforce laws at the national level. Of course, we've got the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's one of the best known federal law enforcement agencies. We also have the DEA, which is Drug Enforcement Agency. We have the U.S. Marshals. We have the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. We have the Department of Treasury, the Bureau of Prisons, and we also have U.S. Coast Guard. And as a side note, I'm trying to set up a visit or a presentation actually from someone who used to work for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And when I get that solidified, I'll let you all know so you can attend if you'd like. We've also got our state level enforcement, and I'm going to just give you a hint here. You're going to need to know this for at least your midterm or your final or both. There are 2 types of state level enforcement. We've got centralized and we've got decentralized. Now the centralized state level of enforcement conducts major criminal investigations with patrol of state highways. So what that means here is that, well, let's look at Minnesota State Patrol. It's primarily more focused on patrol and less on investigations. And for centralized state level law enforcement, um, it will conduct some criminal investigations, primarily if there's a traffic offense that leads to, say, the death of someone. Um, but it's not exactly the type of state law enforcement agency that investigates anything other than that. We also have like the Michigan State Police, very similar to our state of Minnesota patrol. Now we've got decentralized state level enforcement, and these types of state level enforcement agencies conduct a number of other adjunct state level operations. You've got the North Carolina State Wildlife Commission. We have our Minnesota Alcohol, Gambling, and Tobacco Agency that does this type of state level enforcement. And then we have our local level enforcement. I know you are all familiar with the county sheriff's departments, local police departments. I would venture to guess you've all heard of campus police departments, and then we also have transit police. County sheriff's departments are responsible for serving court orders, security in courtrooms, running county jails. They're also referred to as deputies or deputy sheriff. An example of that would be like the Anoka County Sheriff's Department. Um, Now we also have a local police department, or we have police departments that are local, and they are responsible for patrol and investigation within a municipal city. An example of that would be, say, like the Blaine Police Department or the Lino Lakes Police Department. Just to clarify, local police departments are not, or officers within local police departments are not responsible for security in courtrooms, running county jails, serving court orders. That is primarily the responsibility of a county sheriff's department, okay? And oftentimes people get that confused. So Make sure you read up on that in your textbook, Chapter 4, because this just might be something you need to know for a future exam. Campus police departments are primarily responsible for patrol and investigation on college campuses. One of the biggest campus police departments I know of is our University of Minnesota Police Department. Very big. They also work very closely with Minneapolis PD, St. Paul PD, et cetera, but their jurisdiction is the college campus itself. It does patrol and it does investigate any crimes that occur on the college campus. And lastly, we also have transit police. This is a type of local level enforcement that covers public transportation, and an example of that would be our city bus line or commuter rail. We have in Minnesota, we have the Metro Transit Police Department. We've got a very large agency, I should say a large staff within that agency, and those officers will ride on the commuter rail. Some of them respond to, or I should say, they all should be responding to crimes that occur on our Metro Transit bus line. And so that is their jurisdiction, is the commuter rail and the bus line. There are three different styles of policing that are described in your textbook. One is the watchman style, one is the legalistic style, and one is the service style. The watchman style is primarily concerned with order maintenance. They see their job as controlling illegal and corruptive activity. Now, the legalistic style, and I'm hoping none of you have really met anybody like this because sometimes they are very hard-nosed. They're committed to enforcing the letter of the law. So if the speed limit is 65 miles per hour, you will receive a ticket if you are going 66 miles per hour. And believe me, I know one of those guys who works for the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office. He has pulled people over for going 2 miles over the speed limit, and he has definitely got the legalistic style policing. And then you got the service style. These officers strive to meet the needs of the community and serve its needs, and these officers see themselves more as helpers than as soldiers of war on crime. Service-oriented, also known as community policing. Now, today, many departments embrace this service model. In fact, this service model has been around, I believe it's since the 80s, but it's becoming more and more prevalent every year. This approach addresses the causes of crime to reduce the fear of crime and social disorder by using problem-solving strategies and police-community partnerships. Community policing can best be characterized as a philosophy based on forging a partnership between the police and the citizens. Now, when I used to work for the City of Brooklyn Center, I will say this, that agency has done a great job of creating a great community policing partnership with um, the leaders of the diverse populations within the city. And it has ultimately helped the police department solve violent crimes that have occurred in the city uh, because of that type of police community partnership that they have created. It did take a good 5 years for that to happen, maybe even more, but with things such as citizens academies, National Night Out, these types of things, it really sort of helps to form a tight knit bond between the community and the police department itself. All right, I'm going to talk briefly about at least one experiment in law enforcement. I believe this is addressed in Chapter 4. Um, this is the Kansas City Police Patrol experiment. I'll go through the what, when, how, why, where's of this experiment itself, but I also want you to read about it in your chapter as well, because I have a feeling you're going to have at least a couple of questions on this in your final exam. So what was this experiment? Well, it's known as a landmark experiment designed to measure the impact that routine patrol had on the incidence of crime and the public sphere of crime. Meaning, the experimenters wanted to know, or the researchers wanted to know, if the measure of crime itself and public sphere of crime would be changed based on the number of patrol cars in the area, and the frequency, etc., etc. So when was it uh, conducted? It was conducted October 1st of 1972 through September 30th of 1973, so a good year. Where and who conducted the experiment? Well, the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department is where it was conducted, and the Kansas City Police Department was considered a very progressive department at the time. In fact, it still is. Funding was provided by the Police Foundation, which was a federal foundation. The experiment demonstrated that urban police departments can successfully test patrol deployment strategies. And the experiment demonstrated that urban police departments can manipulate patrol resources without jeopardizing public safety. So why was this experiment conducted? And like I said, number one, to measure the impact routine patrol had on the incidence of crime or the occurrence of crime. And number two, to measure the public's fear of crime. So how was this experiment conducted? Well, the Kansas City Police Department was a very large uh, agency, and the city had 15 beats. The beats were then split into three separate sections, so each section contained 5 individual beats. The researchers used 3 controlled levels of routine preventative patrol in these 3 sections. So ultimately, one section had what we would call a reactive type of patrol. Those officers were only in that area if they were reacting to a call for service, okay? A second section of the city would have a proactive type of patrol. You would see squad cars and officers in the air with 2 to 3 times more police visibility. These are squads that are driving around, just kind of looking for something. And then the control patrol in the third section was really just the normal level of patrol that was maintained prior to the experiment. The experiment asked the following questions. Would citizens notice changes in the level of police patrol? Would different levels of visible police patrol affect recorded crime or the outcome of victim surveys? Would citizen fear of crime and attendant behavior change as a result of differing patrol levels? And would their degree of satisfaction with police change? Now, when I was reading this, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, definitely the citizens would notice a change in the level of police patrol. If I lived in one of those sections where all of a sudden now I saw no squad cars, I would think, what's going on? Or if I lived in the section that had, the proactive type of patrol, I would think, wow, there's a lot of officers in this area. Would different levels of the visible police patrol affect the type of crime or the outcome of victim surveys? I would think, sure. I'm sure you would too. Would citizen fear of crime and attendant behavior change as a result of differing patrol levels? Personally, for me, if I saw more officers in the area, I would feel safer. That would be my opinion, I guess. And then would the degree of satisfaction with police change? Probably would change for the better or the worse regarding, depending on whether or not they were in the area often or not. Well, the analysis of the data gathered revealed that the 3 areas experienced no significant differences. Apparently, there was no difference in the level of crime, no difference in the level of citizens' attitudes towards police services. This is the biggie. No significant difference in citizens' fear of crime, no difference in police response time, or there was no difference in citizen satisfaction with police response time. So the findings were interesting. Citizens did not notice the difference in the level of patrol. And, really the increasing or decreasing levels of patrol had no significant effect on the actual crime itself. The rate of crime reported to police did not differ, and citizens' fear of crime was not affected by the different levels of patrol. The implications were that the experiment findings don't prove that highly visible police presence has an impact on crime or citizens' feeling of safety. Okay, But what I would just like to say to you is remember, this experiment is 40 years old. It would be interesting to see if it was conducted today, what the analysis of the results would be today. Looks like we're out of time. You folks have a great week.